Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another PC Boys podcast. It is your boy, Logan Locke. So, it has been a hot minute since I've done a PC Boys podcast. It's been about a month now, to my recollection, since I uploaded last. Obviously, school's very busy. We're approaching finals time, and I'm also approaching my graduation. That's supposed to be on May 19th. So, I've been quite the busy guy over this past month. As well, I have some other things going on in my life that's job related and stuff, which has been another reason I haven't had exactly a lot of time to create content for the channel. The good news is, though, obviously summertime's approaching. I am taking a few classes over the summer, but I will have a lot more free time to do podcasting, which is the good news, and rightly so, because there's plenty of movies coming out this summer that I'm going to be doing reviews on and talking about. But in today's podcast, we have a lot to cover. It's going to be a pretty long one. We're going to be covering Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to be covering Transformers 1. Obviously, I'm going to do my quick Godzilla x Kong review that I said I was going to do last time, as well as talking about Stellar Blade. So, and also Helldivers 2. Why not? Because there's been some controversy with that recently today that has been breaking out on Twitter and stuff like that. So I will be talking about all these different things in today's podcast. But of course, if you guys want to subscribe to the Rumble main podcast, follow our socials, I'll have the link tree down below, of course, just to make it quick and easy. I will probably be doing a return to Rumble soon as well. I just kind of want to figure out what it is exactly I'm going to cover on there. Maybe the Title IX stuff being rewritten, maybe Russell Brand's conversion to Christianity and whatnot. So I might, talk about one of those two things. Those are kind of some of the ideas I have floating around right now, but not exactly sure yet. Without further ado, though, let's get into today's topic. So first of all, I'm going to give my little quick review of Godzilla x Kong, because it has been out for a while now. But essentially, I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was very fun, obviously action-packed. I mean, if you're there to watch monsters fighting each other, this movie's great. This movie is also another Kong-centric movie like Godzilla vs. Kong. And Godzilla's just kind of in this movie, really doesn't have any character development or anything. So, also very similar to Godzilla vs. Kong. And this movie basically follows Kong finding more of his species in another pocket dimension that's beneath Hollow Earth somehow. And we end up meeting Scar King there, finding out that he basically is controlling Shimo and has her as like this pet that he controls with the end of his whip and stuff like that. There's this little baby Kong that, tries to like sabotage Kong along the way to meet these other apes. And I mean, he's a cool character, I guess. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of him. Some people loved him. Personally, for me, he was just kind of there. And of course, they added so much shit into this movie that didn't make sense. Like, oh no, Gia has these, dreams now of, Shimo and being connected to the Hollow Earth and stuff like that. So it was really weird. You also come to find out she's not the last of her tribe, which was originally thought to be. So I guess her and Kong are very similar on that level, where they both find out they're not the last of their own group. But basically, long story short, Kong, Godzilla end up teaming up to fight against Scar King and Shimo, and they end up besting Scar King by essentially freeing Shimo, and Shimo ends up killing Scar King. And then Kong ends up ruling over the Hollow Earth. Godzilla goes back to doing what he's doing, and Shimo's kind of like Kong's pet after that, I guess, but she likes him. So yeah. That's basically my, quick review of Godzilla x Kong. But yeah, there was a lot of nonsense in that movie to just kind of push the plot along and making things up as they go. Like I said, giving Gia the whole I'm connected to the Hollow Earth and I have like these visions and stuff like that. Just a bunch of stuff that wasn't needed that they kind of just put there to put there. It is what it is though. There's not really much I can say about it outside of it was just nonsense. But the action was enjoyable. That's what I went for. So I was relatively happy. But we have to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. So obviously, I don't have my computer upgraded yet, so I still can't watch videos and go along through them. But the trailer was amazing. We saw a lot of things in this trailer that were references, obviously, back to the comics. Of course, you had the Old Man Logan reference with the dead body of Ant-Man, which is also looks to be a base for Cassandra Nova in this movie. And there's a lot of scenes in the trailer that show them at that base or around that area. We also see Dogpool, obviously, in the trailer for a little bit. There's also a little bit of a reference to Liefeld's, feet only or something like that. It's a shop in the background, which is a reference at Liefeld, and the fact that he can't draw feet very well. So, there was some references and stuff in the back there, which I thought was pretty cool. It was kind of neat, little placed in the back there, of course. Of course, we see Wolverine a lot in this trailer. There's like a small dick joke or like a, Viagra joke in the bar scene, which was pretty funny. We come to find out that this version of Wolverine that we're following in this movie has failed his world. So this Wolverine my guess would be we haven't met this one before. It's not a part of the original X-Men timeline, not a part of the Logan timeline, which they already said they didn't want to touch Logan because it was a perfect send-off and that this is just a new version of Wolverine. So that's kind of like my major curiosity going into Deadpool and Wolverine is, what is this Wolverine's backstory? What is it that, he did to fail his world? What's his past like with his version of the X-Men? So I am very curious to see the deep dive they go into for this Wolverine in particular. The suit looks great. I obviously believe that they CGI'd the cowl out of some of the scenes in the trailer. They've obviously done this in multiple other trailers in the past. Spider-Man No Way Home is a great example where the other two Spider-Men were CGI'd out of the trailer, but it was very obvious that they were in that scene based upon how that trailer played out. If you look at Avengers Infinity War, that whole scene of Hulk, Captain America, Okoye, and Black Panther, and the whole Wakandan army running into the forest, that scene was not in the movie. But there are instances, of course, in many different trailers where things are CGI'd out. Spider-Man was, of course, removed in the Civil War trailer way back when that came out in 2016. They removed him from that, final, or that airport battle lineup on Iron Man's side. He was CGI'd out. So it's not the first time that something would be CGI'd out. And I wouldn't be shocked if the cowl was CGI'd out in this trailer as well. I mean, it'd be a lot easier to do, and also they're trying to keep that under wraps, which I don't know why they're trying to keep it under wraps, considering we've seen the Wolverine cowl in the promotional art, and we know it's going to be in the movie. So that part to me kind of makes no sense why they're trying to hide it, but I do believe in some of those scenes that they are just trying to do that. There are some theories floating around that Paradox is a bad guy in the TVA, and there is, of course, some merit to that, considering the fact that Deadpool is fighting TVA agents. And for those of you that don't know, in the comics, like Mobius and Paradox, there's also another version of them as well. I forgot what his name was, but they are identical in terms of their looks, but obviously for the movies, they're doing their own interpretation, so they're two completely different people, or at least they look visually different. And this version of the TVA could be like a splinter group or a fringe group of the TVA that was like exiled from the, whole TVA, and they, instead are trying to destroy universes or something. We don't know what, how the TVA plays into this story, or if this is the TVA that we know from Loki. Like I said, it could be a whole different division. It could be, a part that was annexed off by the TVA because they were rebellious or went against what the TVA originally was doing. We don't know. But obviously we'll find out in the movie. I'm just curious to see how that whole dynamic plays out as well. We know that the Deadpool corpse, in some form, are going to be in this movie. Like I said a while ago, I think I even have them on my Twitter, the pictures. But there's a picture of Ryan Reynolds dressed up in a different Deadpool suit. He's got long hair, and he's talking to somebody that's dressed up and done in makeup to look like Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. The one that we know, because he's talking to him in Wolverine. Obviously, you have Dogpool, which is another multiversal variant of Deadpool, and there is rumors of Lady Deadpool appearing in the movie as well. So the Deadpool corpse will appear appear in this movie in a certain degree. I don't know if they'll like team up with Wolverine or not, or if they'll just be thrown in there as like a reference or a cameo kind of thing for the comics. I'm not sure about how they're going to deal with that, but that is a potential option. We do know that apparently there's going to be this resistance force at the end of time that also, or the graveyard, as well, fighting with Wolverine and Deadpool. Some of the names I was hearing around was X-23, which we know X-23 is going to be in the film. We just don't know to what capacity. I've heard that she's going to have a much more significant role than just a cameo. I don't know what that means, if that means she's going to have extra time compared to what a normal cameo is, if she's going to actually play a decent portion of a role for like a third of the movie. I'm not sure, but I was told she will not be just a cameo. Like, she will be a bigger part than people expect. The one part about her appearance, though, that's rumored is that she will be wearing her own yellow and blue suit like Wolverine's. I can't confirm or deny if that's actually happening or not, but I was told that might be something that happens. That is a rumor, though. That's why I can't confirm or deny, but she will be in the movie. I believe some other characters that were told to be on the team was a multiversal variant of Gambit. That's one of them. There was a few others in there. I can't remember exactly who the other members were, but essentially it'd be like 4 or 5 different X-Men and stuff, being there, helping out Wolverine and Deadpool in the final fight. We also, in that Ant-Man scene of his dead body and the helmet opening up, we also see some other people there as well. We see Azazel from X-Men First Class. He's on the right-hand side, and Pyro's kind of put off into the back. We also see the woman from X-Men 2, I believe it is, with the sharp razor nails. She's on the left-hand side. And then there's some other people there as well. It's kind of hard to make out exactly who. There's the girl from, I think it's X-Men 1. I forgot her character's name exactly, but Magneto goes to her and a group of her friends and recruits them to the Brotherhood of Mutants in the first movie. It's just been a while. By the way, I'm not an X-Men expert. I don't know all the X-Men, okay? So if I'm missing some names, that's probably why. I can tell you everything there is to know about Spider-Man and his characters. But when it comes to the X-Men, my knowledge is limited to a good amount, but not all of them. Azazel was just blatantly obvious. The girl from X-Men 2 was blatantly obvious. As well as, like I said, that girl from, I believe it was X-Men 1 that Magneto recruited her in. Maybe it could have been X-Men 2. I don't know. But it was one of the two. Maybe it was Last Stand. It could have been Last Stand 2. Obviously it was in the original trilogy. I just can't remember exactly what movie she was in. But yeah, so there are quite a few characters coming back. We already know that there's a lot of, that there's going to be a lot of, characters in this movie that make appearances, and it's going to be jaw-dropping, whether they're in the form of cameos or bigger roles. But by the Deadpool trailer, just seeing Azazel, seeing, we already know Pyro's going to be there, seeing the girl from X-Men 2 with the large fingernails and stuff, and then that other one I was talking about, just is like the tip of the iceberg as to who we will see in this movie. And of course, we see Eliath as well, returning from Loki. The big shadow monster that eats things and stuff, obviously is making a return. We see Cassandra Nova fighting Wolverine, using her telekinetic, abilities to, stop Wolverine from attacking her and attack himself and whatnot. And on top of that, we also see Wolverine and Deadpool jumping into a Doctor Strange portal. The interesting thing about that is that them entering the MCU? That would be my guess. Because if you look at the background of that scene, Deadpool and Wolverine are in Ant-Man's dead head, aka the base for Cassandra Nova. We can see that clear as day. But my guess would be that scene of Wolverine and Deadpool jumping through the portal, the Doctor Strange portal, is at the very end of the movie. That would be my guess. So that was kind of like the whole trailer in and of itself. Obviously, you have Wolverine and Deadpool bantering with each other. But outside of what the trailer showed, it showed enough to get you excited for the cameos and to kind of give you a little direction to where the story is. But I will give them a lot of credit. We don't know what the main story of this movie is. We don't know if Paradox is a good guy or a bad guy. If the TVA is good guys or bad guys. Is Cassandra Nova the real villain, or is she just somebody that Paradox wants to try to get out of the way? If he is a villain, like, there's so many theories as to, because of all the different implications, right? This Wolverine, what's his story? What universe is he from? How did he fail his world? The TVA's involvement, Paradox, what's his whole, motivations and schemes in this movie? What's Cassandra's, motivations and schemes in this movie? We don't know anything important about this movie, okay? All we know is that there's going to be a lot of cameos in the movie, that Hugh Jackman Wolverine's in it in his classic suit, obviously Deadpool, gonna save, the X-Men universe or something along the sort, the Deadpool corpse. Like, we know about all the fan servicey stuff in the movie, but the plot is still relatively being held very close to Marvel Studios' chest. Which is a great thing, by the way, because I don't like my story being ruined in trailers, because then there's no reason to go to the movies and watch anything. But yes, I am very happy with the trailer. Very excited. It gets me theorizing about what they could do. Like I said, they could have Paradox be a bad guy and have Deadpool go and take Cassandra out because, anybody in the TVA can't stand up to Cassandra because, she is a telekinetic. She can move things with her mind. So it would be very hard for for the TVA to take her out. So you go get Deadpool and you go get Wolverine, two people that pretty much can't be killed, to go take her out makes a lot of sense. Like I said, the TVA could very well, and Paradox could very well be the actual bad guy of the movie with their own intentions of destroying the Fox universe and pruning and stuff. Because here's actually an interesting theory, okay? Loki and the TVA that we know from Loki are trying to save the multiverse, especially Loki. He's made the Tree of Life with all the branching timelines. What if this version of the TVA that we're currently seeing led by Paradox is still on the old mission of what the TVA used to be trying to do underneath Kang, right? Underneath the one at the end of time, that Kang, that version from Loki. His whole goal was prune the timelines, preserve the sacred timeline, right? So that way other Kangs don't exist. What if a version of Kang, right, is using this version of the TVA, or let's just say a splinter cell or an annexed version of the TVA, to continue to prune timelines just as the previous TVA did in Loki. But since that version of the TVA is now trying to preserve the multiverse and all the timelines, this version of the TVA is still holding to the old values and is still operating underneath a version of Kang. And they need Deadpool to get rid of Cassandra Nova so that way they can continue to prune timelines, including the X-Men timelines, that would, pose a threat. But obviously, having to have Deadpool because they can't do it themselves. That's one thing that they could be doing. Or perhaps they're trying to get rid of Cassandra Nova, so I don't know, they can, gather the X-Men and use them as weapons or whatnot. I am not sure. I'm not sure. But that is plausible. What if Paradox is working with a different version of Kang, and for whatever reason they need to get rid of Cassandra Nova to do whatever it is that they need to do, they hire Deadpool? In my opinion, that makes a lot of sense, right? We already knew with the original TVA they were working underneath a version of Kang, the one at the end of time. And then, he got, taken out the end of Loki Season 1. Loki Season 2 is about preserving the multiverse in the Tree of Life. And now you have this version of the TVA that are getting Deadpool for some unknown reason to take out Cassandra Nova, based, at least from what we know from the trailers. And why is that, right? There's a lot of why in this movie, right? Why did, how did Logan fail his universe? Why did Deadpool choose him? Why did the TVA choose Deadpool? Why do they need him to kill Cassandra Nova, right? There is so much why in everything happening, it's very hard for me to know, or to even, I guess, dish out reasons that could be possible. But it's interesting. It's exciting. You know how long it's been since, we've had a Marvel movie that I'm actually excited to theorize about, or even have the mental capacity to want to theorize about. They are doing such a great job with the marketing for this film, as well as not giving away the plot. So props, props to Ryan Reynolds, the whole team, and Marvel Studios on this project in particular, because after how Marvel had been going, I was very worried about this movie, and they are doing it justice. And of course, up here I have the two posters that are for Deadpool and Wolverine. They're basically just a reversal of each other, but they're pretty cool looking posters nonetheless. I'm liking it so far. So that is my whole conversation about Deadpool and Wolverine. Obviously, as time goes on and we get more information, we'll talk more about it. Or if we don't get any more information, I'll be sure to do a very in-depth review of that movie for you guys. But, okay, so let's talk about Transformers 1. So, Transformers 1 is a prequel to Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast. But it's being done in an animated style. Okay? So, just to be clear, okay, the Bayverse is in its own universe. Bumblebee, Rise of the Beast, and Transformers 1 are in a completely separate timeline, and Transformers 1 is a prequel to Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast. To make that as simple as I possibly can for you guys. Okay. So this story, this movie, is going to follow Orion Pax, aka Optimus Prime before he became Optimus Prime, and Megatron, but before he became Megatron, and he's known as D16. And of course, we also have Elita 1 and Bumblebee being the other two supporting Transformers in this movie. So, in the beginning of the trailer, they're worker bots, and they don't have the ability to transform. They don't have their T-Cogs. But Optimus and Megatron decide to take Elita and Bumblebee to the surface of Cybertron and go in search of something. We don't know what, but my guess would be the Tomb of the Primes, which is where they end up. We see a lot of different, not skeletons, but remains of the original 13 Primes. In the area, there is a theory that the Decepticon-looking head is Megatronus, and that's where Megatron is going to get his name from, and he already has a Decepticon symbol on his shoulder. So there's some interesting theories as to, how that's going to play into the movie's plot. Maybe the Decepticons existed prior to, or in this universe at least, prior to them coming to discover it, or maybe this means that Megatron is a descendant of Megatronus. We don't know. We don't even know if that Cybertronian head that looks like a Decepticon symbol, if that's even Megatronus or not. It's just kind of a guess, right? Then, of course, you have, what was it? Was it Onyx Prime? Or something like that? The bird-looking one, and his skeleton's in there. But anyways, Prime, B, Elita, and Megatron end up meeting Alpha Trion, who's in the middle of the Tomb of Primes. I'm calling it the Tomb of Primes. And he gives all four of them their T-Cog, so they get the ability to transform. And, of course, they go through a silly montage of trying to learn how to transform and all that. And it's a very lighter tone in the trailer. It's very much comedic. Chris Hemsworth is obviously doing the voice of Optimus Prime, aka Orion Pax, so it's going to be a little bit interesting. But remember, it is a prequel before Megatron's Megatron and Prime's Prime. They also had the Iacon 5000 in the background of the trailer when they were at a bar, and that is this big race on Cybertron back in the original continuity. And for those of you that don't know what Iacon is the capital city of the Autobots, just as Kaon is the capital city of the Decepticons. But anyways, yeah. So at least the two or the three primes that we saw in the trailer, in the Tomb of Primes, potentially Megatronus, Alpha Trion, and Onyx Prime. I believe that's the name of that prime. If I'm wrong, sorry guys. I'm normally very good about my Transformers lore. But anyways, I think there was also a theory of the Fallen being in the movie, potentially. We do know that Sentinel Prime is going to be in the movie. He is the blue Autobot that gets strung up by the Quintesson, aka the squid-looking dudes, in the trailer. So, obviously, Sentinel Prime is going to be in the movie. But if I had to take a guess as to how this movie's going to be, Prime, Megatron, Alita, and Bumblebee are going to travel to the surface, find the Tomb of Primes, be given their T-Cogs by Alpha Trion, learn how to transform and do all that great jazz. Then, of course, you'll have the Quintessons be the main antagonists of the movie. They will fight the Quintessons, but throughout the movie, Megatron will fall into darkness and eventually become Megatron at the very end of the movie. And Prime will become Optimus Prime by the end of the movie. Now, the question remains, though, will we get to see Prime and Megatron create the Decepticons and Autobots as we know them and fight each other? Or are they going to save that for the next two movies? Because it has been confirmed that Transformers 1 is the first movie in a new trilogy of prequels to Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts. So we'll just have to wait and see how that works. But yes, this movie is very much based upon the first trailer. Very comedic, but I have no doubt that throughout the movie there's going to be very serious, dramatic moments. I mean, obviously we're talking about the rise of Optimus Prime and Megatron. You're going to see two people that go from friends, aka brothers, to being enemies with each other. So there's going to be an emotional attachment and an emotional, scenes in the movie at some point. It's eventually going to get there. We also see Soundwave, Starscream, and Shockwave rocking their Bumblebee Cybertronian forms in this movie as well, in front of a throne. This could be before Megatron becomes Megatron or afterwards. We're not sure. We also see, I think it was Skywarp. Yeah, I think we saw Skywarp in the trailer. Maybe it was Thundercracker, but I'm pretty sure it was Skywarp. Flying towards somebody in a big aerial battle. But the question mainly is, is this will the Autobots and Decepticons fight each other in this movie, or is it just going to be the build up to that? And then the next two movies are going to basically show the Cybertronian War. That would be my guess. I guess I'm very curious to see, will Chris Hemsworth stay playing Optimus Prime throughout this trilogy, even after he goes from Orion Pax to Optimus Prime, or is Peter Cullen and Frank Welker going to take the reins of the voices of Megatron and Optimus Prime at the end of the movie and going into the next two movies? We'll just have to wait and see. We also know that, of course, they're in the development of a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover movie as well. That was confirmed, I believe, at CinemaCon. So that's another thing we have to pay attention to. As well, I did report on my Twitter here that Sony is currently in talks to acquire Paramount, and apparently it is now confirmed that they are going to be acquiring Paramount, which means Sony is now going to own the live-action rights to Spider-Man, his characters, Transformers, Halo, well, at least the series for Paramount, Star Trek, and G.I. Joe, and the like. So, yeah. Little bit worried about that after Madam Web and Morbius for, Sony's side of things. So, that's my little discussion on Transformers 1. We only got one trailer, relatively a lighthearted trailer, and the story beats seem to be pretty simple. You got Megatron, Optimus Prime being worker bots, taking the trip with Alita and Bumblebee to the surface of Cybertron, becoming really good friends along the way, having fun, getting their T-Cogs, being able to transform. Prime and Megatron, of course, are gonna fight the Quintessons and, have an uprising against them. And leading down that road, Megatron will have us fall into, power and vengeance and anger, and will eventually turn into Megatron, kind of probably Revenge of the Sith style, and Prime Orion Pax will turn into Optimus Prime and gain the Matrix of Leadership. So that would be my guess of how the movie's going to play out. But we'll, of course, have to wait and see how all that plays out. But moving on to one of the two big gaming stories, Stellar Blade. So I do have a screenshot up here of me canceling my PlayStation Plus subscription. So right now, PlayStation is under fire for two different games, Helldivers and Stellar Blade. So when it comes to Stellar Blade, originally it was announced by Shift Up, the developers of the game, that the game was going to be uncensored in all regions of the world. However, on day one, after the day one patch to Stellar Blade, people started to notice that there was blood removed from the game. So when Eve does finishers and stuff on bosses, normally blood would be all over her character model, and it was removed. There are some people saying that this is due to a performance decision for the game's gameplay, and other people are considering it to be censored content, which who knows what it could be, but I would lean towards, it depends, right? is there any confirmation that when they were doing that gameplay, was that in fidelity mode or was that in performance mode? We don't know. So at the moment, it stands to be under censorship. Some of Eve's outfits were censored to show less cleavage. So that's been one of the major things that's under discussion as well, because when Stellar Blade initially launched and people played the disc version prior to the update coming out, Eve's outfits were the same as they were in the, demo, and the same as they were prior to the game's actual launch, and what it looked like in its promotional gameplay and stuff like that. But it was after the patch that the outfits were clearly changed to be quote-unquote less sexual. First of all, the idea of Stellar Blade being super sexual, in my opinion, is ridiculous. Most of the outfits in the game don't show cleavage, and even in their prior format before the update, didn't show the most cleavage at all. And while, yes, the character is attractive in the game, when I played through Stellar Blade, because I just beat it the other day, I didn't wear any sexual outfits. I wore the default outfit through most of my playthrough, and I think I changed it to the, fourth or third diving suit, and that was one of the more covered suits anyways. But I don't agree with censorship in any form. Not to mention, this is an M for mature game, so if you're trying to get rid of cleavage because it's too sexual, well, why are games like Cyberpunk not censored? Or games like Baldur's Gate? And then people brought up the point that Eastern games seem to get censored and Western games don't. So games like Cyberpunk, games like Baldur's Gate, games like The Last of Us 2 that have full frontal nudity or sex scenes are not censored whatsoever, but they're made by Western developers. But any game made in Japan or in Eastern countries, and Stellar Blade was made by a development team in Korea, that all those games are constantly getting censored in the West. So there seems to be a double standard, which I also don't stand for. R is R, and just let the developers put it out. If they want to put it out less sexualized or more sexualized, who cares? And it's a rated M game to begin with. So if you're going to try to make the claim that it's too sexual, well, it's an M for mature game. Get over it. That's another thing I've noticed, in modern gaming in general. M for mature games, like your voice chat's monitored, and if you say something offensive, you get banned. Or, they try to censor outfits or blood and gore and stuff in games. It's like, dude, it's a rated M for mature game. It's for adults. If people can't take the gore, can't take the nudity, can't take the in-game trash talk, then they shouldn't be playing the game. That's simple. It's for adults. Get over it. That's the easiest way I can put it. And while personally these changes to Eve's outfits and the gore didn't affect my gameplay and my enjoyment of the game, I still ended my PlayStation subscription because I believe that nothing should be censored. Shift Up clearly had a vision of what they wanted their game to be, and the outfits and the gameplay and the gore and everything that they wanted in the game. And hey, they should be allowed to put their game uncensored out to the public. And everybody, I've seen people say, oh, well, then don't buy Stellar Blade. No, if you don't buy Stellar Blade, right, you give the games journalists what they want. The only people complaining about the outfits were the games journalists, saying it was too sexual. And if you don't buy the game, you basically tell the market, oh, they don't want any games like this. You don't want games with attractive female characters. You don't want games with smooth gameplay in this genre, etc., right? What you do is you buy the game, support the developer saying, yes, we want this kind of game, but you cancel the subscription to the company that's forcing the censorship onto the development company to say, we don't want this game to be censored. Stellar Blade is a great game. The gameplay is smooth as butter, which is amazing in the modern day game. I didn't experience any bugs that were game breaking. Matter of fact, I don't think I experienced any bugs with the game. Visually, it looked great. My only gripes with it is the story, because the story was kind of generic in my opinion. Somebody said it was kind of like a copy of another game, but I've never played it, so I can't say anything on that because I didn't play that game. But yeah, and the voice acting was fucking terrible. Oh my gosh, the voice acting was really awful. I would say the best voice acting was probably from Lily's character, in my opinion. Adam's was fucking absolutely terrible. And Eve was okay, I guess. But hey, this company, Shift Up, they mainly have made mobile games. This is their first major game in the PC/console space, even though the game's not on PC, but still. just so you get the idea of like how big of a game it is, right? It's like a AAA looking game and stuff. So it's their first dive into that kind of game, and they did a great job, for their first time. So, the voice acting not being the best, but granted it's a Korean game, so it's English dubbed, which is probably half the problem as to why it seems a little off when it comes to the voice acting. But ultimately, though, this game is gameplay. This game doesn't, sure, it has cutscenes, but it's not like Spider-Man. It's not like most modern PlayStation exclusive games. It's gameplay pretty much the entire way through. And the gameplay is great. It's fun. The combat's exciting. And visually, it looks great. The story wasn't great, sure. The voice acting wasn't great. But it looks great. It played great. And the game put gameplay over story first. So I thought it was great. If they want to improve on the story, the voice acting, that kind of stuff, they can do that in the sequel, which I have no doubt Stellar Blade will probably get after the reception that the game's gotten. But yes, free Stellar Blade, stop the censorship. Honestly, I don't wear any of the nude outfits and stuff like that anyways, as it is. So, to me, that part doesn't matter. I just don't think anything should be censored. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, I'm all for it. So, Sony, go fuck yourself and uncensor the game. And if you don't, well, I won't be activating my PlayStation subscription again, and most other people won't be either. But speaking of Sony being in hot water for Stellar Blade, let's talk about Helldivers 2. So today, I was on Twitter and YouTube, and apparently, Sony essentially made it where you have to make a PlayStation account to be able to play Helldivers. Rather you're playing on PC or you're playing on PlayStation, you have to have a PlayStation account to access the game. Okay? Now, number one, in some regions in the world, you cannot make a PlayStation account if you didn't know. So for those people, they just can't play a game that they spent $40 or $50 on, depending on the version they bought, which, is stealing money, essentially. And on top of that, if someone doesn't want to make a PlayStation account because they only play on PC and don't own a console, then they shouldn't have to make a PlayStation account to play fucking Helldivers. And the whole reason they said, we're doing this is for your safety. Anytime the government or anytime a fucking big-ass company says, well, we're doing this for your safety, yeah, that's a big load of bullshit. And it's the dumbest fucking reasoning ever. And they're also like, well, we've had server issues. Yeah, you really think that dividing up the player base by requiring a PlayStation account is going to help your servers? No, it's not. And of course, there's a lot of people apparently getting removed from the Helldivers Discord for voicing their displeasure with this decision. Yeah, it's not having Arrowhead look good, because you gotta think, Helldivers was a gem up until this point. The game was fun. The game wasn't egregious with microtransactions. They're there, but they're not egregious to things like Call of Duty and stuff like that, right? The game was fun. They added things into the game. They built up so much goodwill with Helldivers. And Helldivers was a beacon of hope in gaming. And now, well, it's just like everything else. I mean, Sony comes in, says, hey, you have to do this or you can't play the game. And if you're in other regions, go fuck yourself. And people get removed from the Helldivers Discord. All that says to me is that Helldivers is now like any other game out there. So not only are people canceling their PlayStation subscriptions for Stellar Blade, which is a single-player experience, but now for Helldivers as well. So yeah, gaming right now, and well, I mean for the past few years it has been this way. By that I mean like the past decade, really. But yeah, gaming is in a really shitty spot right now, and has been for a while. But hey, I mean, if it saves me money, one less subscription to buy or have, then hey, good on the gaming community. But yeah, so that's basically all the news going on right now, from the movies to the video game side of things. I will do a Stellar Blade review at some point. However, I do want to preface, I don't know if it will be a YouTube video or not, and if it is a YouTube video, I don't know if it'll be done in like this format where I am on my PC. I might record it on my phone and upload it, so it might not be the best quality, but I might just do it audio-wise as well. But, yeah, I do want to do a review for Stellar Blade. The game deserves it. It's a really solid game. But going forward, into the future, we, of course, are going to have information to talk about on Spider-Man 4, Venom 3, Morbius. Kraven got pushed back into December, so we'll be talking about Kraven when we get more information on why that happened and whatnot. Then, of course, we have stuff going on this summer, Twisters coming out, Deadpool, Wolverine, etc. So, yeah, there's a lot to be talked about, a lot to look forward to, and I'm really excited to discuss it all with you. But thank you very much for joining. I hope you all enjoy the podcast. Like I said, I know it takes a while for me to get a new episode out. Sometimes it can be 2 weeks. Sometimes it can be a month or over a month. It all just depends upon what time I have that's free, with my life right now, in terms of school and work. And I don't make money from doing podcasting. I just have to have time to talk about stuff that I love to talk about. But thank you very much for watching. And I'll catch you all in the next one. And God bless.